Today on Maysville, Kentucky, Simple Living, I'm riding across the Simon Kent Memorial Bridge here in my hometown in eastern Kentucky when I noticed that these support brackets were put on the cables suspending the bridge, ensuring its safety because of the large trucks riding over the years. This reminds me of a time when I was 8 years old. I took a trip with my parents to a place called Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It was a very cold day in December, and recently discovered video footage taken by my dad at that time will come into play with this project. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Maysville, Kentucky, Simple Living. We will show you cruise-ins, fly-ins, Ohio River boating action, small town festivals, and pretty much anything else I can think of that would be very interesting showing small town living. So if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that little subscribe button right down in the corner, and I'll bring you more of small town living. Yes, Maysville, Kentucky, Simple Living. I'm actually in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Behind me is the Silver Memorial Bridge, built in 1969, which replaced the Silver Bridge that was built in 1928, just a few hundred yards on this side of that railroad bridge. The Silver Bridge, completed in 1928, connected Ohio to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. But on the afternoon of 15 December 1967, the traffic lights wasn't working correctly on one end of the bridge, and with it being fully loaded with Christmas shoppers and folks coming home from work in their cars, the bridge suffered a major failure and fell into the cold, icy waters of the Ohio River. Today I'm in the tourism office of Mason County, West Virginia, with Danny, the tourism director. I'd like to talk a little bit about the Silver Bridge disaster, since I was here one time as a child witnessing what happened afterwards. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do here and a little bit about the disaster?
Sure. This is, you're in the Mason County Tourism Center. I'm the Mason County Tourism Director. My name is Denny Bellamy. I'm from Point Pleasant, born and raised here. This is my 17th year as a tourism director. I'm only the second one they've ever had. Yeah, I was around when the bridge fell. I was in the 3rd grade. I remember it very vividly. I'll tell you where I was at when the bridge fell, because I heard it fall. I was sitting in the top of a tree.
On top of a tree?
Yes. Again, 3rd grade. My mother wanted my father and I to go to the grocery store called Tiny's. It was right across the bridge, to go get some stuff for dinner that night, and I didn't want to go. And I climbed up the top of the tree and sat up there because I didn't want to go. My mother was in a doctor's office right beside the bridge when it fell. And right on Main Street. And of course she heard the bridge fall. Everyone on Main Street heard it fall. They thought one of the plants exploded, because when the beams broke, it was like an explosion.
Oh, I bet it was.
Yeah. So they thought one of the plants exploded, and when my mother told me she ran out and went out to the river, there was nothing but cars and Christmas presents floating in the river, because it was Christmas right before. Now my mother's first thought was that her son and her husband were on that bridge, because we were supposed to be going to Tiny's to get dinner for that night. So she was freaking out, because she thought for sure we were on it. And the story, the reason I remember this is my mother, you did not, well, you did what my mom said, you know how that is.
That's so did I.
Yeah. My parents did not spare the switches. No, and
mine either.
I recall, this is my memory from the bridge. I'm sitting at the top of the tree, and I see my mother coming at me down the road. And she sees me in the top of that tree, and she starts crying. And I'm thinking, oh my God, she's mad. My mom is going to beat me all the way down the road. And I come down out of that tree, and she hugged me and kissed me and hugged me. I had no idea what happened. You want me?
So, Mom, what'd I do now? You're in real trouble.
So that bridge saved me a butt whipping, but that's my memory, a very vivid memory. And like I said, there was Kathy Bias was in my grade school class. She had an empty chair there the rest of the year. And
Is her name on the memorial plaque over
yeah,
across
she
the
was
river?
never recovered. Her body was never recovered.
I heard there was 2 that were never found.
Her and her mother.
So
there was too much wreckage. The movie, if you watch the Mothman movie where they have the bridge falling, it was nothing like that at all. The bridge fell in seconds. You didn't have time to even open your car door or anything. And then the bridge fell on top of everybody. There was no survivors. It was in the middle of the winter time, so hypothermia would have kept you from even escaping if you could. One fellow got pulled out that fell near the bank because there was an AP boat nearby, and they got to him immediately.
Well, the river would be just above freezing in December, so yes.
You couldn't do that anyway. No, it was it. It was over, and it happened in seconds anyway. You probably didn't even get out of
30, 40 feet underwater, no chance of survival.
no.
So how soon did the river crews come to start lifting the steel? Was it pretty much the next day or the day after? Or
Well, the response was immediate, and it caused an entire national response to bridge inspections. Of course, a disaster has to happen before you get something moving in that way.
Did the NTSB rebuild this bridge on the bank somewhere so they could figure out where this eye-bar problem was, or did they just kind of got lucky and eyeballed
Well,
it?
they recovered all the steel. There's pictures of the steel on the side where they inspected it, and they found the broken. We have the broken eye-bar. It's in the River Museum has it. Of course, our River Museum is being rebuilt right now, but they have an extensive exhibit on the Silver Bridge. There's a model of the Silver Bridge with every single car that was on that bridge and who was in it.
Oh, I want to see that someday.
I
look fascinating.
But the bridge was right in the middle of our town. The bridge was backed up. It was bumper to bumper. The light was broken. The stoplight that controlled the traffic on the bridge. The bridge was in terrible condition. Had holes in it. Shook.
I could picture this thing falling in the river because as a kid we all rode bicycles, and when a chain link broke, pretty much done for the day. You know,
Yeah,
get your dad to go buy you a chain to fix it. So when that link broke on that bridge, it was pretty much given.
Yeah, it was a suspension bridge, and that's what held all the weight. And when it snapped, the bridge swung, dumped the cars on the left side into the river, swung back, dumped the line of cars on the right side into the river, and then fell on them.
So now you explain to me why that 2 of these bodies were never recovered with tons of steel, pushed them into the river mud at the bottom in December. I could totally understand where you're coming at now. I'm amazed they even found as many of the bodies as they did.
And
I just can't even imagine being a diver to start with, because you're in muddy water, you're running a cable around a piece of steel and signaling up somewhere.
They had to bring it all out. Sure.
I just amazed that
it was an amazing recovery area. But we work on boats here, and we have divers.
Yeah, the NTSB probably had a lot of pressure on them to get it resolved on why it
Yeah,
broke.
sure.
And in my hometown in Maysville, Kentucky, the fellows are on that Simon Kent Bridge once a year.
Exactly.
I can see them climbing up on top of them with their rappel equipment on, and they're looking at the steel and the cables and so forth.
We don't complain about those weights anymore. They can expect them all they want to now.
Yeah,
that's fine with us.
Just had one about 2 weeks ago in our hometown that shut the bridge down for 2 days.
Well, you and I live with bridges. You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's a lot of people who don't.
Well, Danny, thank you very much.
Yep.
I appreciate your thoughts on the Silver Bridge.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you too.
Here we are. This is where the Silver Bridge used to go up and over the flood wall. It actually, if you want to take a little peek, you can see the road. You might want to pan down that way. You can see how the road would come, and the bridge ramp would start about right here. And then it would ramp up and go over that flood wall and go over to Ohio. This is a memorial mark. There's you notice on the bricks, there's some of the people that passed away.
And 2 of them were never recovered.
Yeah, Kathy Bias she was in class with my sister also. My sister was good friends with her. Like Denny told you earlier, they never recovered her or her mother's body. She was in the 3rd grade with my sister years ago, but they just got this put up in December. and they got everything completed and dedicated. But that's the mural. They try to depict a car of the era coming down and one car going across.
Well, let's get on the other side of the flood wall and see what the site looked like from when I used to remember it. This is what I remember, Craig, is as an 8-year-old boy. The big barges out in the river with 3 or 4 cranes on them. And I can still remember barely the trucks, the steel. I know the bridge came up to the first pier and quit. Everything from the first pier over to the Ohio side was in the river. That's what I can remember as an 8-year-old boy coming up here 52 years ago. This is the site where the actual bridge stood across the Ohio River. Craig, you got a little story to tell us, don't you?
I have a friend whose father worked for the Corps of Engineers, and I'll leave him nameless because I think he's technically not supposed to have kept what he kept. But his father worked for the Corps of Engineers, and there were 2 weapons recovered. One was a shotgun, and the other was a lever action .22 Marlin rifle. And this gentleman has that .22 Marlin rifle. It's kind of heartbreaking. It still has the tag where it was bought around the trigger guard. Now the paper tag was gone obviously because it would have dissolved in the water, but his father recovered that out of the wreckage and actually kept it. And it functioned, and they used to hunt with that. But he will never let go of that because that was going to be someone's Christmas present. They're very respectful with it. They just know what it is, and they knew it would have just got tossed in the garbage, and they keep that as a reminder. And this gentleman says when he passes away, he's going to leave it to a museum and have the story with it, but he still has it, and I'll leave him nameless for now.
That's a pretty fantastic story. That's pretty cool.
But,
several months ago, I was going through the film footage that my father shot with his silent movie camera from back in the 1950s clear up to the 1980s, when I found some rare Silver Bridge disaster video clips. I'd like to go through and show you those, and let's talk about them. For the locals, this film footage will be very familiar, as my father was standing on the West Virginia side of the river just downstream from where the disaster happens. I still remember those 3 massive cranes sitting on those barges in the center of the river, with steel on the barges beside them, and even vehicles that my dad was pointing out to me as part of the recovery efforts. As he pans on over toward the Ohio side, I don't remember anything on the other side of the river. Apparently there's nothing left of this bridge to see. It's all in the bottom of the river. I don't know what day this was. It must have been within a week after the disaster for all the equipment there and the cranes and so forth. I do remember being very cold as an 8-year-old boy, witnessing this massive recovery just before Christmas in 1967. I found a picture on the internet in almost the exact location taken as where my father was filming his movies. Notice there's 2 spots of rust on the steel? That unknown photographer and my father were standing almost in the exact same location. Now how cool is that? But here's a section that my dad took a picture of just in front of the concrete pier, which was right here, of the mangled wreckage. Following my dad's camera footage, there's the concrete pier closest to you. The bridge is still resting on it. The rest of the bridge is in the bottom of the Ohio River. The remainder of this footage shows a tug near the West Virginia bank with a huge crane on it, and just downstream attached to this crane and barge is another smaller one with steel wreckage and vehicles on it from this tragedy. I'm on the left. the next set of footage on my father's spool of film. This would have been at my younger brother's birthday party just a few months after the Silver Bridge tragedy. First time I've been back since I'm 8 years old, 52 years ago. As the cars whiz by this busy intersection here, a solemn reminder that the Silver Bridge did exist just about a mile downstream from where I am today. This plaque reminds you of those that perished in that tragic accident of so long ago. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.